We continue on with Riveting Radio Real Estate. I got to find out, how was that ribbon cutting yesterday?
It was
4 o'clock?
awesome. It was awesome. Lennox Scott himself of John L. Scott fame was there, and turns out that he has been the CEO of that corporation for 38 years.
Oh,
wow.
And his dad before him and his grandfather before him.
That's amazing.
It is truly. I didn't know it was quite that long. I knew it was a long time family thing, and now his daughter is going to be taking over.
That's great.
So it is, and I know with Jamie Mel and Ryan Wheaton kind of taking over and running things, that it is a very close-knit family there. But it sounds like the whole time it's been a family.
It has been, yes,
and
the whole company is.
Yeah.
I mean, Lennox is based in Bellevue, so and they go pretty much all over the Pacific Northwest. So it's a big company, but it always has had, and that's one of the reasons why I picked it.
Sure.
Is that it always had that kind of family feeling about it. So
that's
yeah,
great.
but the ribbon cutting was awesome. There were lots of people, and the office looks great. I think they finished painting at 8:30 Wednesday night, but
just in time.
Yeah, it looks awesome. It put a really cool reclaimed wood wall back behind the desk.
Oh, nice.
I like
that.
It looks really good. So
That's great.
I told Ryan last night that now we'll have to go out and sell a bunch of houses to pay for it.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. But we're happy to do that. We're happy to do that.
That's the business you're in.
That is.
We continue with the letter S. It's the seller disclosure form. And
yes.
We got through some of it last time, but
yes.
Where are we at nowadays?
Well, I wanted to kind of recap. We ended talking about water, and that's a pretty big part of it, because it asks you about the source of the water and the water rights, and if there have been any problems with it, and if there's a water treatment system and irrigation water and outdoor sprinkler system, all of those things. There's questions about each of those, and like I said last time, each of these things on this form, and what makes it a really important form, is that you're answering yes, no, don't know, or doesn't apply to every single thing on this 6-page form. And the reason, again, that this was put together is because at some point all of these things were issues for some folks. And so this is, again, a conversation between the seller and the buyer.
And it's all important information.
It is. It
because
is.
The water out here, it could be a well, it could be a shared something.
Right. And people need to know that, and a lot of times lenders need to know that. You know, they need to know if there's more than a certain number of connections. Sometimes they don't want to lend on that property. So it's all really important information. And then they always, on each of the sections, there's one that says, have you ever had any problems with this?
Right.
So, and then you can say, yes, but we fixed it, or, all of those things.
Let me ask you this question, before we even start in this thing.
This might take us months.
So, a family member who does not live in the home, they are from out of the state, they haven't been to the family homestead in 20 years. Yeah. They now are in perhaps the unfortunate situation of having to deal with the estate. Right. Where would they go if there is nobody still alive, or maybe just unaware of these answers? Is it marked up in the county somewhere, or where would you find some of this information?
Well, the good news about that is that if it is an estate, this is not required.
Oh.
For that exact reason, that they realize that probably these folks have never lived there, and they wouldn't necessarily know these questions. I generally try and give the estate people an opportunity if they want to fill this out, if they happen to know, but they are not required. That's one of the only reasons where this can be exempt, is for an estate.
Okay.
And the other one, and it's not even exempt for bank owned a lot of times. They still have to, even though they have never lived there, they still, generally what they do is go through and mark don't know, or doesn't apply to everything, which isn't real helpful, but
okay.
But it is definitely not required for an actual estate.
Okay. Well, good to know.
So, yeah. So the next one on here is, after water, is sewer.
Sure.
So, and again, that gives you the very first question is it a public sewer system? Is it a septic? What is it? Is it, sometimes there are shared septic systems, so there's an option to put that on here. And then there's also, how many bedrooms is it for? When was it last inspected? When was it last pumped?
Yeah, because I've seen ads where it says septic for a 2-bedroom, and it might be a 4-bedroom home or a 3-bedroom.
Right. The septic is classified at the county for the number of bedrooms.
Okay.
They don't care how many bathrooms you have.
Isn't that odd?
But
That's
number
so odd.
number of bedrooms.
That is weird.
And I think the reasoning is that presumably if you have 3 bedrooms, you could potentially have 6 people.
6 people,
you know.
yes. Okay.
So they're kind of going by
okay.
what they think the usage is going to be.
Yeah.
So, and even if you have three bedrooms, a lot of times you only have 1 or 2 bathrooms. So, you know, that doesn't really correlate.
Sure.
So the main thing is they're guessing how much usage the system is going to get, and
Right.
if it has enough capacity to handle. The big thing is the drain field. Is the
Right.
drain field big enough to handle the overflow? And then also the size of the tank. I mean, if it's, you know, a 2-bedroom septic, it generally is like 750,000 gallon tank. If it's a 3-bedroom, it's generally 1,200, something like that. So there are specific guidelines to classify it as 1, 2, 3, 4, you know,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So you do have to be careful. You know, you can't advertise a place as a 4-bedroom home if it only has a 3-bedroom septic. So then you have to, if that's the case, then you have to say it's 3 bedrooms plus an extra room, or 3 bedrooms plus a den, or something like that. But you can't advertise it as having more bedrooms than the septic is rated for.
And so,
Interesting.
what if you started on septic, but between the time you bought the house and the time you sell it, you go on city? Is that still the case, or
No.
that's gone?
That there's no requirement if it's on public sewer.
Okay.
You can have as many bedrooms as you want.
Oh.
So yeah, so that's a plus actually for being on a public sewer system. You know, you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. Plus, you don't have to worry about what you put in there
Sure.
because it's all taken care of.
Yeah.
So and then one of the big things on sewer, which a lot of times people kind of question, is, well, 2 things actually. They want to know if there have been any changes to the system. So if you've had to have something replaced for something, they want to know that. And then they also want to know if all of the plumbing fixtures are connected to that.
I would
You'd be
hope so.
surprised that sometimes they're not.
Really?
So, like the washing machine a lot of times will be just vented or just go to the outside. I mean, that isn't common, but I've seen it happen.
Oh, wow.
So they want to know that. And then the other thing they want to know is if all of the work was permitted when it was put in. Now, if you're the 3rd or 4th owner of this home, you may not know that. So that's a question that
And that's
you would
important to have permits for.
well,
add-ons
yeah,
and
but
such.
it's not really the responsibility of this 3rd or 4th owner. All
good.
they can say
Oh.
is, I don't know.
Sure.
Wasn't me.
Wasn't me that did it. Yeah, but sometimes those will be on record at the county. But then it becomes the responsibility of the buyer to do their due diligence and do their research on that to see if there are some septic systems out there that were not permitted. So,
And so then by the time the next person has to sell, they have to square all that, or can you still go, listen, this was done, there was no documentation, I didn't know,
Right.
I would fully comply if I knew that this was a problem, but
Mhm.
I had no idea this happened.
Yeah.
How do they? Will they still ding the person who's selling it or potential buyer?
That's why one of the requirements of a sale usually is a septic inspection. And so that's something that the seller is generally responsible for. And so they have to have the people come in and certify that this tank is working, and yes, this drain field is working. And if it's not, then it's up to the seller generally to fix it so that it does work. From personal experience, I just had a case where I sold my house, and it happened to be on septic still because when we built the house, the public sewer didn't go by there.
Yeah.
So the rule is that as long as the septic is functioning, you don't have to hook up to the sewer. So we just kept the septic and never had any problems with it. But they came in to inspect it, and turns out the drain field had failed.
Oh.
I didn't know that, but it definitely was not functioning. And so then I was responsible to not only bring somebody in to test that, to see to prove that it wasn't working, but then also to hook up to the city sewer.
Okay.
Wow.
So, that was something that I, as a seller, was responsible for, because the buyer has a right to expect that the septic or the sewer system will be functioning
Right.
when they move into the house.
So in that case, and you can get as detailed as you want, could the potential buyer requested that you pay to connect to the city?
They didn't have to. I thought was my responsibility, so I did. But
Okay.
yeah, I mean, it could have been a negotiation, I suppose, back and forth that maybe we'll split the cost or whatever. It just depends on what the requirements of each individual buyer or seller is. But I felt like as the seller, it was my responsibility to provide a system that works. So in this case,
Could you have just fixed the problem with the septic instead?
With the
no,
drain
field?
because the sewer now went by within a certain distance, and
Perfect.
so the rule is that you can stay on the septic until that fails. Then you have to hook up to the sewer.
Okay.
So we
Wow.
just abandoned the septic system, and in this case, it was another case of this probably is going to work out better for them, even having to pay the monthly sewer charges. At least they don't have to worry about what they're putting in. They have 4 little girls, and
Right.
it could be a disaster.
Sure. Barbie heads. And
Yeah, right. So,
Right.
and who knows what all, So yeah. So it's and this document then is a chance for the seller to say, well, yeah, we're on septic, and as far as I know, it's fine, and we've had it pumped this date, but then once you get an offer, then that is part of the contract generally, to have that system inspected and certified that it's in good
Now,
working.
would the price change with sewer versus septic, or
the price?
Price of a
from the
house?
house?
It didn't in this case.
It didn't.
No, but I suppose it could.
I mean, if there's 2 exact houses, but one's on septic and one's on
I see what you
sewer.
mean.
Yeah.
I see what you mean. That depends on what people. Some people want to be on septic. Some people want to be on sewer. I mean, it just depends on what your requirements are. We don't really have that many in Mason County that are on sewer. I mean, it pretty much has to be within the city limits.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Or in like Lakeland Village and those areas that have sewer.
Right.
Parts of Belfair now, I guess. So, but the majority of the county is still on septic.
Okay.
So in a case where if you're on a septic system and they come in and do the inspection and it's failed, then you have to put in a new septic system.
Right.
So whether it's a new tank or a new drain field or something like that. So
Okay.
yeah. So
What else you got on here?
the next one is structural. So, and that's things like, has the roof leaked over the past 5 years? Has the basement flooded? Are there any conversions or additions or remodeling? And again, were building permits obtained? Again, the current owner may or may not know that.
Yeah.
So you have to just give it your best shot. Do they, the age of the house? What's its what year was it originally constructed? And sometimes those are different because there could be significant remodeling, and so the original house could be done like in the 40s, but the actual age is like the 70s because it was completely remodeled.
Wow, okay.
So, and then it gives you and then has there been any slipping or sliding of the property? That pretty important to know,
Yikes, yeah.
but again,
I've looked at a house that slipped and slid.
yeah, yeah,
A
that
little
can
yellow house.
Can you tell?
sometimes if you know what you're looking at.
Okay.
I mean, you put a
can-
marble on the floor.
Yeah,
if it
right. Well,
rolls,
yeah, yeah,
that's
but- yeah.
not a big
Yeah,
deal.
that's-
I walked into one and I actually got dizzy in the
Right,
kitchen
right.
because it was so slanted. So
Of course,
I'm like,
that-
what is that from? I
That's
was
not
thinking probably flooding.
or it could be a foundation issue, not
Okay.
necessarily a slippage issue.
Okay.
So you have to be, you have to be a little bit, but to be 100% certain, I suppose you need to bring in a geotech or somebody like that but because of the way our soils are around here, sliding is actually fairly common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So there was a case of a house one time. This may take us a while to get through this.
I
but-
think it will.
We
There
got
was a-
plenty of time.
Yeah, there was a case out on Hammersley where they built this great big house right on the edge of the bluff.
Uh-huh.
Well, I think they were like a week away from actually moving in, and there was a slide,
Oh no.
and the whole front of the house went.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
So they had to then pay to actually move the house back. And so, yeah, that was a
Man,
major
that wasn't
major
cheap.
thing.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah, and they actually, I think, if I remember right, had somebody come in and look at it, and I don't know what the disposition was, but I mean, it was pretty obvious that it slid, and took basically the front deck off, and so they had to
Oh,
move the
my
house
gosh.
back and then put the deck again.
We're going to have to
How crazy.
wrap on this. I know we didn't get hardly anywhere,
Yeah,
but
but
one final question.
It was fun.
on
It was fun. Yeah, good
this.
information.
It was.
Is this
Good
a
conversation.
binding questionnaire as if, like, if I knowingly say a wrong answer, that they can come back and get me?
We've talked about that. It's not part of the contract, so it's not a document that goes with the contract. It's the responsibility of the seller to fill it out. We as agents aren't supposed to have any input into that. We're supposed to just hand it to them and let them. But then on the other hand, we are supposed to read through it and make sure, first of all, that everything is marked. And if we know that something is wrong, I suppose it's our responsibility to bring that up to the seller and say, hey,
Right.
did you really mean this? I suppose if it came right down to it, it's again a back and forth between the buyer and the seller. If they knowingly did that, if you can prove
Sure.
that they knowingly did it. We also need to, if for some reason there is an inspection on the house and something comes up and then the sale falls through, we need to go back and change the seller's disclosure based on what was revealed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, because it
During
could
the-
be I don't remember that, or
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Right.
Or, so
But
you
now,
know, you can't really-
when you do know, then
Yeah, you
you're
gotta-
responsible for
Right.
So we'll continue on with structural
we'll
again
get
next
through there.
time. And
How do people get in touch with you? Go see those new digs over the new.
they can
Yeah.
come in and see me on the corner of 3rd and Railroad. I'm pretty much there a lot of the time, but if I'm not, they'll know where I am and I can run down and meet you, or you can call me at 360-490-4493.
Very
Love to talk
cool.
to you.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Don.